Good morning, everybody. First, I'm happy to be here at DefCamp. We have been sponsoring DefCamp for a few years now, and this is the first opportunity I have to actually do a lecture. What I will be talking today about will be vulnerability research and how people that do vulnerability research can disclose their vulnerabilities, get paid for it, and of course, I'm here not just to talk about that, but also discuss about what are the difficulties that security researchers have in disclosing those vulnerabilities, and of course, how you can solve those problems. So a bit about me. I'm doing security since the age of 13. I've been doing penetration testing and fuzzing and security uncovering for a long time. I have 40 vulnerabilities that I've discovered over the years in different various products like Flash, Microsoft, Oracle. I wrote most of the code, or at least 50% of the code of Nessus when it was still open source, and about 500 tests out of the 1,000 that it had back then. This is, of course, before it became commercial. Beyond Security, the company I work for, is not part of the Nessus today because, of course, it's been commercialized. A bit about Beyond Security with the company I work for. I founded it with I founded Beyond Security with Aviram Janik, my colleague. When we started off in '99, we were doing security testing and uncovering vulnerabilities, and we decided to focus in three areas. The first one is doing secure disclosure, allowing security researchers to publish their findings and get money from that for those discoveries, and also get publicity for it. The second part that we have done in Beyond Security is allow people that have infrastructures, networks, systems to scan their network and get a report of all the vulnerabilities that they have. This is done by a product called AVDS. And the third part of what the company does is a tool called bstorm. Bstorm is a security fuzzer. It allows you to test the product that you are about to ship as a vendor, or test the product that you have received as part of your engagement with a company that you were requested to uncover vulnerabilities. Bstorm does fuzzing and security testing, which means that it communicates with the product that you have received, and it will do things like buffer overflows, format string, integer overflows, try to uncover SQL injections, and it can do that on a variety of protocols. Besides HTTP, it can also do that on SMTP servers for mail, FTP servers for file transfer. It can also test your proprietary protocols, SCADA. There is a variety of protocols that bstorm can test and communicate with. So let's jump into what the lecture is today. I know that there are a lot of security researchers out there that want to get their findings out, and they are facing problems. So the researcher, on his side of the work, he wants to research. He wants to find vulnerabilities. He wants to do the fun part of uncovering those problems, uh, writing an advisory, writing some shell code, and probably get paid for it because this is how he sees the process. But he comes across a lot of problems. One of the problems that he comes across is that it's a lot of hassle to uncover vulnerabilities, but it's also a lot of hassle to disclose them to the public for various reasons. One of them is that in many cases, the disclosure can go really wrong. This is an example of an email I got when I tried to report a vulnerability in a product that I found a vulnerability in. And the first reaction by the vendor was not, oh, great, then send me the information. We'll get right away to fix it. His reaction was, we don't have any security vulnerabilities. We just finished the Microsoft SDL certification. So what you found is not a security vulnerability. So this is one of the example of the problems you see when you try to disclose. Another problem that I see quite often when I try to disclose vulnerabilities, and also when I work with other security researchers to disclose their vulnerabilities, is that it's really difficult to communicate with them. In many cases, though English is an international language, the way we communicate in English is very difficult between countries because the person reading it might not understand what you mean exactly, doesn't understand the way you're describing the problem, the way that you're trying to get this information out. Also, you might not understand what you're trying to gain from this disclosure. Are you trying to, for example, coerce, or you're trying to, extort them? You're trying to get money from them. In many cases, even if you try to do this in a nice way, you'll get some lawyer sending you a paper or some kind of document that's saying you need to stop doing any kind of research, or what you're doing is illegal. Another problem is that in many cases, when you report to the vendor, the person that gets this information is not a security person. It's a salesperson. It's a person that does PR for the company. Maybe it's the website owner. It's not always the guy that does security. And also, when it is the guy that does security, he might not be able to force or get the developers to fix that vulnerability because he doesn't have enough power in the company. And also another thing is that in many cases, when you communicate with a vendor, you might be fearing a lawsuit from the vendor. He might sue you, and you might not be able to defend yourself because you have already a job. You're not supposed maybe to do this kind of research. You're doing it on your pastime, and your employer does not want you to do that kind of thing during the day. Another thing that I've seen quite often is that it takes a long time. On the right here, you can see a thread of all the emails that I've done in trying to convince this vendor that he needs to fix the vulnerabilities in his product. It's over a dozen emails. Actually, this conversation took several months of going back and forth, trying to get him to fix it. And of course, then after he fixed it, publish an advisory. And then after he published an advisory, could we inform our customers about this problem? And you can see this kind of problem is a day-to-day routine for reporting vulnerabilities. This is not, a unique case. It's not like something that only happens once. Another thing that researchers quite often see is that they report a vulnerability and it takes months to get a patch out and get the vulnerability fixed. And they want to move on. They don't want to still keep an eye for that old vulnerability that they found like 3 months ago. This is an example of vulnerability that took 3 months to even get acknowledged and fixed by the vendor, even though it's a high risk vulnerability that allows you to compromise a remote server. Another problem is that in many cases there is a bureaucracy or there is a hostile response. This is an example of that same guy that I sent the email in one of the emails that he sent back to me. He said, "Okay, if you continue doing this, I'll talk to my attorney and we'll get you sued. So you need to stop doing anything you're doing at the moment." And he even used very threatening words. He didn't say you guys need to stop doing it because I need more time or something like that. He said, I would recommend to stop doing everything, or I'll contact my legal attorney. And obviously, the next step would be to send us a letter from an attorney and sue us. Another problem is that the researcher wants to do it responsibly. He wants to send it to the vendor, but do it in a process that would not cause him any problems. So he tries to see, well, okay, what's the process? He goes to the vendor website, starts looking around, finds maybe an email of a person, sends the guy an email. He doesn't know, the security researcher doesn't know how to do it. He needs somebody to guide him through. He needs some kind of guidance or a document. So he finds some kind of policy on the internet. He reads it. He tries to follow it, sends an email to security at, gets no response, sends a few emails, posts an email on the full disclosure list, maybe gets the vendor to respond, but he doesn't know the steps. He needs somebody to guide him. He needs somebody to help them do the process. In many cases, for example, in Germany, disclosing a vulnerability that might affect the privacy of people can get you sued by the government. The government of Germany does not allow you to disclose vulnerabilities that affect the privacy of people. And in many cases, the security researchers are not aware of this, and they might endanger themselves by doing that kind of thing. Another thing is that in many cases, like in France, for example, the disclosure of vulnerability is actually illegal. You need to do this directly with the vendor without any publicity or whatsoever, because it's illegal to publicize any exploit or any vulnerability that you can use to harm people. Um, in the end, most of the people that do security research, they're either doing it because they were hired to do it or because they're trying to get money for their research. And this is something that is not guaranteed. When you send a vendor a report about a vulnerability, there is no guarantee that you'll get paid for it. So you might be giving basically the vulnerability and the bug for free, which is not helping you as a security researcher. You want to maximize the amount of money you get for that security research. So you need to negotiate this with the vendor. In many cases, this negotiation is difficult. It's not so intuitive you for as a researcher because you're not doing a sales. You're not a salesperson. You're a researcher. And another thing is that you as a security researcher, you're trying to publicize your information and get paid, and you don't want to start hassling with contracts, start hassling with negotiation about price. You want just to get the information out and get paid for it. A lot of security researchers, when they try to do security research and get their information published, they get a lot of people contacting them and doing some things that are really shady. I've given two examples of attempts to contact security researchers from shady companies. You have an example on the left, an email from a person that's trying to buy PDF vulnerabilities and Flash vulnerabilities, but the way he writes it is very unclear. It's not clear what he's doing. Like it's not clear, like what he's doing with that information. Is it like a legitimate business? Is he even notifying the vendor? How is he paying? Who is behind? Who is getting this information? And on the right, there is another example which shows that they're using like Tor services and like a Tor website. So everything is like masked. So you don't even know where this information is going to. It's not going directly to the vendor or some kind of reputable agency like CERT or something like that. A few years there was a big boom, and actually it's quite big now. There's a lot of bug bounties where companies, vendors, as well as like organizations, they offer money to security researchers for the information that they discover. The problem with the bug bounties from the security researcher perspective is that each bug bounty has different rules, different payouts. You might get on Facebook for an XSS $1,000 and you might get on Google $10,000. It's not clear how much you will be getting from the start. You need to send them the information and wait for them to acknowledge this and then decide how much they're willing to pay for it. There is no way for you to negotiate this before. Also, with bug bounties, as a security researcher, you need to send out all the information that you have to the bug bounty, and then they decide what they do with it. If they decide not to publish it, you have no way of doing something else. This is like the end game. Once you sent it, you gave them full control over the vulnerability, so you have no way of maybe approaching another vendor, maybe approaching another company that will buy this vulnerability, like an IDS company, for example, or a WAF solution. So the bug bounty is solving part of the problem, but it's not making you, the security researcher, the person that has the control over the vulnerability and information that you discovered. Another problem with bug bounties that I've noticed when we work with researchers on bug bounties is that in many cases the bug bounty website, you get no response or you don't get that vulnerability that you reported handled, and this is because it's in many cases an automated process. It's like a ticketing system. You send the vulnerability information, it gets assigned to somebody in the company. That person starts working on that vulnerability. Maybe he decides it's not worth his time. He goes to do something else. It doesn't come back. When you send requests to get an update on what's going on with the vulnerability, you get automated responses. It's being handled, it's been assigned, and things like that. There is no person at that location that you can talk to. And this is a lot of the problems that we see when we do bug bounties disclosure. And also, in many cases, this website is uh, giving you like no control over any aspects besides report. You have no way to negotiate the price. You have no way to make sure that the advisory is being published. You're just sending them the information and you're hoping for the best. And I posted here an example of one of the researchers that reported vulnerability I used after free that was exploitable in a browser. And it's really funny because in the end, the vulnerability was very serious, but the company decided to pay him only $1,000, which obviously for a security researcher is kind of upsetting because He spent a lot of time finding that vulnerability. He sent them the report, and in the end, they only paid him $1,000, which is really a low amount. Though, as a bug bounty post, he has no control over that. So what is the right way to do this as a security researcher? The first part is to make sure you get paid. How do you get that is through an escrow process. So you're not sending the vendor the information without him accepting the let's say the contract of you sending him the information and he paying you back. So you want to first finalize the terms of the delivery as well as the terms of the payment. Another thing, you want to have a quick response. You want when you send an email to the vendor, when you send an email to the bug bounty, you want to get an immediate response. We got this. We assigned this person to your case. We get you back here to you as soon as possible with questions. Please wait, and then obviously get either daily notifications or at least weekly notifications of what's going on, like with a schedule. When is the ETA for the patch? When is the ETA for the advisor? Another thing you want to do is get a person to answer you, not just a system. You want a person that, if you have difficulties understanding what's the status, if you have difficulties understanding what the problem is, like why is it not getting patched, why it's not getting the attention it needs, you want somebody to be available for you. You want a person to be able to respond to you on pricing, on terms of payment, on terms of the contract, how you're protecting him from being sued. You want to have control as a security researcher. You don't want to just send your information and have no control over that. Also, a lot of bug bounties, they have like different methods of payment. Some of them will pay using Bitcoin, which is good, but some of them will give you like a PayPal payment. Some will give you maybe a wire transfer if it's a large sum. But I've seen like people give you like very strange gifts, like Amazon gift cards. I saw United giving miles, and I saw Victoria's Secret giving like gift cards, which is really funny for a security researcher. He found a security vulnerability in Victoria's Secret's website, their web store, and he got a gift card for Victoria's Secret. So unless he has a girlfriend, I don't see how he's gonna pay out using Victoria's Secret unless he has some kind of kinky idea of wearing clothes. I don't know. Another thing is that the researchers, they're doing this also to learn. A lot of the people that are doing vulnerability research, they want to learn about vulnerabilities. They want to learn about security research. So a lot of the bug bounties do not currently offer things that are besides money. They don't give you the ability to get free training or courses in events like DefCamp. They don't allow you to attend conferences. That's part of the reason why we sponsor DefCamp. We sponsor our researchers to come to DefCamp and other conferences like DefCon and Black Hat and other conferences around the world for free, because we want our researchers to get trained and know more about how to discover vulnerabilities. And also, a lot of the researchers, they don't have access to all the software. So let's say they want to find a vulnerability in a product that costs $10,000. For them to get it would be two options. The illegal way, they would download it from somewhere. Obviously, this has the risks of getting arrested for doing illegal software handling. The other option is to maybe have access for it at work, which can also be a problem. If he finds a vulnerability at work, he might not be able to sell it or report it. And the last option is to work with companies like us, where we sponsor the software or hardware to the security researcher. We give them the equipment he needs, the software he needs, and he can cover the vulnerabilities. And then obviously he can also sell that information and get the vulnerability out and the report to the vendor. So to summarize, I want to conclude that as security researchers, it's good that you're doing security research. It's good that you're disclosing the vulnerabilities. It's very important for you to disclose it. You shouldn't keep it for yourself. It doesn't serve any purpose if you keep it. You should get paid for it. You don't need to give your bugs for free, your vulnerabilities for free. You put effort into doing it, but there's a lot of pitfalls you need to try and avoid, from bureaucracy to unresponsive vendors to hostile environment to not getting paid. There is a lot of reasons why you need to know all these problems. And another thing is that you need somebody to help you, a reference guide, a friend that does security research and disclose the vulnerability, a program such as what we run, the Beyond Security program, where we help researchers disclose the vulnerability. But you need help. You cannot do it on your own. If you do it on your own, there is a good chance you won't get paid, or you get like paid like $1,000 for a vulnerability is worth 10 50 or $100,000. Obviously, some vulnerabilities are even worth more. So obviously, I'm giving this talk for two reasons. One is to help you educate, and also talk that about beyond security, about the program that we give and help security researchers get paid and disclose their information and get publicity for their vulnerabilities. You can contact us through several ways, both about the program and me personally. Thank you for your time this morning, and now I'm sure you get more technical lectures than what I gave. My lecture was more like an overview of security disclosure and vulnerability disclosure. Thank you. If anybody has questions, also you're free to ask. Just raise your hand if you have a question. There is I think you need to.
So, what happens if you report a vulnerability to a vendor and then he asks for some proof, obviously, before paying out? But then, let's say he realizes what the vulnerability is,
Yes.
he fixes it and patches the product and never pays you. Do
Okay.
you have any weapon against this kind of practice?
So this is the part of what we do as a company. We do an escrow process where we get from you the vulnerability. We get from the customer the payment, like an advance payment. We verify the vulnerability using the description you gave, like we download the software or use the hardware. We verify that what you claimed you found is correct. And then we send it to the vendor and you pay with you for the money. So there is no way of going back from that point. Unless the vendor says, no, that vulnerability is not what I thought is, he needs to prove it because he signed a contract that says if it does this and this and this, which is based on the information you as a security researcher gave, he has no way to go back. So that's part of the escrow we do to make sure you get paid and not the vendor says, oh, no, never mind. I fixed it. It's okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yes.
Hi, this is Mark from Avatar. So the question is, I think it's a very laborious process. How do you scale up if you have like hundreds of thousands of researchers reporting to you?
Okay.
Can you do it?
Well, we don't have 100,000 researchers. We're currently working about with 1,000 researchers. The way we scale up is we get more people, more humans to handle the process. Also, some of the parts that we do are automated, but they are automated on our end of the process. So you as a researcher, you get a human talking to you, sending you back emails, but in the end, we do a lot of automation. Like we have like schedulers that remind us to follow up on vendors. Vendors get automated emails saying, what's up, what's the ETA, are you handling the vulnerability? And if they stop responding, we can escalate that to giving them a phone call. And of course, if in the end they stop responding, part of our disclosure program is to release the vulnerability as soon as the vendor stops responding. Like if the vendor is giving us no indication of an ETA of fixing it, or is not responding to emails or phone calls, the next step for us after the payment process has been finalized and he got the information is to patch the vulnerability. So in the end, the research gets paid and also gets publicized. So the vendor cannot just disappear and say, I'm not answering this as a means of avoiding the vulnerability getting disclosed. Any other questions? Okay. If you want to hear more information about the program, also beyond security, we have a booth in the middle in the Hacking Village. We can get you also. Actually, we had on the way here T-shirts that were supposed to be given out to the attendees of the conference. They got stuck in customs. So if anybody knows a way to hack customs and get them released, I hope they get here in the afternoon. So they're free of charge as soon as we get them. So just come to our booth and